So here we have a problem that we want to use the squeeze theorem to evaluate the limit as x approaches 1 of x minus 1 times sine of pi over x minus 1. So here we have the form of, we have some quantity, which in this case is the x minus 1, that is multiplied by a sine of something. It doesn't actually really matter what the something is, as long as the trig function is either sine or cosine. Sine and cosine are limited to being between -1 and +1. So that means that this entire value is only going to be between -1 and +1. So practically what we can do with this, if you're looking for a more theoretical explanation, you might want to find another video, but practically what we can do with this is we can take the quantity that's multiplied by the sine or cosine and we can put it in absolute values and say that the negative of the absolute value of the quantity that is multiplied by the sine or cosine function would be less than or equal to the whole function, which is less than or equal to the positive of the absolute value of the function. So again, we're just taking the quantity that's multiplied by the sine or cosine of something, and we say the negative of that quantity would be less than or equal to the full quantity, which is less than or equal to the positive of the absolute value of that quantity. And what we can do with that is when we take the limit as x approaches 1 of each one of these, what's less than the quantity that we are looking for and what's greater than, if these two outer functions equal the same limit, then the inner function is squeezed to have to equal the same limit. So let's see if they equal the same thing. So this is the negative of x, absolute value of x minus 1. If we do direct substitution, that would be the negative of the absolute value of 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0, and the negative of 0 is just 0. Same thing for this side. If we take the limit as x approaches 1 of the positive absolute value of x minus 1, if we do direct substitution, that's the absolute value of 1 minus 1, which is also 0. So since these two match, the answer to the question would be 0. And to show you what that looks like graphically, I pulled up a graph from Desmos of what this would look like. So the absolute value of the negative absolute value of the x minus 1 remains under the function in question, which is the red function, at all times, and the positive absolute value of the x minus 1 is always above. But since they're approaching the same number as x approaches 1, then we can say that the middle expression, the x minus 1 sine of pi over x minus 1, is also approaching that same value. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and happy studies!